Is the energy for Arsenal the same as other teams in the title race? Other teams falling off this year? That's the big claim that's being made by a lot of Gooners online. We're going to jump into this and take a little bit of a look. Some of the punditry from yesterday, some of the reaction to it. Are all teams treated equally, or are Arsenal fans right? Is there some duplicity, some dichotomy in the thinking when it comes to, say, Man City or Arsenal? I want to get your thoughts. I want to get your feelings. I want to get your opinions on this in the comments section below. Plus, I think we've got an exposure here for fans when it comes to the messages and the behaviour of managers. And I really want to get your opinion on that later in the show. So stay with us, hit the like and the share button, and let's move forward. So the first thing I want to speak about is this. I saw an article today pushed out by Oliver Holt, one of the biggest publications in the world, the Daily Mail. We'll put it up on the screen for you. And it stated, if you can't beat this Man United team, you're not serious contenders for the title. Arsenal played like a side who knew the jig was up some time ago. I'm pausing because I'm hoping you're writing in the comment section now, 1 minute and 25, 26, 27 seconds in, the problem with this particular piece of very, very poor punditry. Arsenal played like a team who knew the jig was up some time ago. It was. The title race ended 2 games ago. I feel like you're beating a dead horse at that point, which I think's poor professional punditry. Rivals, football fans, yes. So if you're in the comment now going, Terry, what are you doing? Banter's fine. This is a professional journalist. The jig was already up. Secondly, he says, if you can't beat this United team, you're not serious contenders for the title. Man United drew 2-2 away at Liverpool, and had it not been for Maguire messing up, would have beaten them. Not beating Man United this season doesn't mean you're not serious title contenders. That, for me, is overanalyzing a singular game and putting far too much weight on it. And we saw this done last year to Arsenal when Carragher and Gary Neville said, well, if you're not beating your title contenders away from home, you're never going to win the league. And when you delved into the last 7 or 8 years, the amount of times Liverpool and or City had beaten their fellow rival away from home was limited. It's rarely happened. And that, for me, is the type of professional punditry that must be called out. Their job, with their access, with their knowledge, should be to educate, enlighten, illuminate our minds when it comes to football. But this, for me, is just crass, stupid nonsense. Man United getting a point against Arsenal, that in itself does not mean Arsenal are not serious title contenders. That can never become a thing, a real thing to hone in on. For me, that's an absolutely crazy piece of journalism. I also saw this tweet from an Arsenal fan. Now, here's the balance from me. So for everyone kicking off and moaning, if you didn't get to 3 minutes and 40 seconds, firstly, your missus will be upset. Secondly, take a breather. Man City spent 200 million in January, lost to Forest this weekend, 8 points behind us, that means Arsenal. And all I see is negative Arsenal press, who despite the crisis are second in the league. Strange. I don't think that is strange. Man City just did a 4-peat and have won 6 league titles since Pep's been here in 8 years. They've won the treble. They've done a domestic treble. They've had 100 points. They've done it all. They've won the lot. World champions to boot. They've had a bad year. They've spent money in January and haven't improved massively. They've been criticised for it, but there is credit in the bank. Arsene Wenger, when he didn't win the league in 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008, was getting criticism. But because of the league titles, the 3 titles he'd already won, because he went invincible, because he did the double-double, because of his consistency of getting into the Champions League, semi-finals in the Champions League finals, there was so much credit in the bank. He was criticised in the media, but it wasn't an outright assault. by the time he got close to leaving the club, it was different because it was years and years and years and years of failure compounded. So I don't think it's fair for Arsenal fans to say, why are we being criticised more than serial winners? However, what I will say is this, hold on to that and go, right, so if we start winning the major trophies and have a bad season, we'll be relatively left alone. That should be how it works, because that's how Klopp has been treated, Pep, Fergie, Wenger in the early stages, even Jose early on. The criticism was less harsh because there was Premier League and Champions Leagues, etc. So all you've got to do is hold your horses on this and see whether the media are more lenient on your poor seasons when you have won those Premier Leagues, when you've won Champions Leagues, and then you'll see whether they're being duplicitous. But as of right now, of course, Man City are not going to get the same criticism as Arsenal, even though they're having a worse season because of the credit that's in the bank. And I do think that is somewhat fair. Now, before I go to the Gary Neville comment here, I want to put this up. This was Mikel Arteta yesterday being interviewed at the end of the game. Take a listen.
Do you excuse the players a little bit at least when you look at the concentration of injuries you've got in that forward line? Obviously Martinelli comes on, but no Saka, no Havertz, no Jesus.
I mean, I will defend my players all the time because the will to do what they want is no question about that. But in those moments, we have to be better as a team. That's it.
So he says, I'll always defend my players. I'm not going to go out of my way to slag them off in the media. I'm going to protect them. That is met with a lot of rivals and journalists, pundits, Arsenal fans saying, don't make excuses, don't protect the players, say it how it is. Call a spade is what people are asking for of Arteta in this particular moment.
And do you regret not signing a striker in January, perhaps that extra player? No, it's not about that?
No, it's not about that.
Okay, Miguel, one more.
Yeah.
I have to ask you about the title race because it's 15 points now. Is it too much? Right.
Yeah, look, he's walked away. I know a lot of people don't like that. It is disrespectful. It is disrespectful. We should answer the question. The journalist is just asking, so we hear it directly. You get a lot of these managers now that either walk off or, Big Ange is terrible for it. Well, tell me what you think. Well, the journalist's job isn't to give us their opinion. It's to ask you to clearly state your view. I know they twist it sometimes, but still. But overall, I saw a lot of criticism for Arteta because he protected his players and made excuses, didn't call out the ownership, didn't call out the club. And I can take that stance. The problem I have is I get confused about what fans want. And this is where I want your opinion in the comment section. So this is an interview done by Amorim in the build-up to the Arsenal game. Take a little listen.
To tell you the truth, I feel sometimes there is scars in our team, in our players. They are good players, but they are so deep. They are so long here that it's hard to change things in one moment. And then all the things that some players have one coach, and then comes a new coach, new hope, new momentum, and then we go to the same place. Imagine what it is this for any person in any job, but imagine this as a player with all the media and the social media. So it's really hard to turn things around just like that.
So essentially saying it's hard to turn things around. A lot of these players are scarred and deeply damaged by their time at Man United. Something that I actually think everybody, objectively speaking, agrees with. But that's met with this type of criticism. I find the way Amorim speaks about his squad quite baffling. How can the players buy into a project when their own manager seemingly has no confidence in them, at least publicly, but on a facade? And I see a lot of this when it comes to Amorim. He shouldn't put his players down. He's got to get a tune out of them. He should be more professional. And this is the sort of I've already used the word once on the video, but the sort of the dichotomy and almost the sort of polar, depending on who the manager is and the situation they're in, I often feel there is such a huge difference in what people expect from their behaviour. And I'll give you an example. Arteta's being called out for not being honest, protecting his players, and in a lot of people's eyes, making excuses for the team. Amorim's being called out for not protecting the players, for not making excuses, and for not protecting the team. Is this about... And honestly, I don't have an answer for this. I don't have an answer. I'm a little bit lost. Is it about judging each situation on its own merit, or is it about football fans, by and large, with a little bit of wiggle room, nailing their flag to the mast and actually picking a side on this? Do you want complete and utter, unadulterated, unedited, uncensored honesty? Do you want complete protection that will probably be called PR, right? Is there a middle ground? And what does that look like? Because for me, just someone who consumes football, sits in the social media space talking to people, I get confused by it. 1 minute, when Amorim first came in, by the way, everyone loved the honesty. Now 3 or 4 months in, the honesty is a problem. What changed? With Mikel Arteta, had he won the Premier League last year, would him protecting these players be seen as a bad thing? But because he didn't win the Premier League, it's treated horribly. Or should we just be looking at the practice being undertaken? Is that the most important thing? How do you guys see that? I'd love to get your views. I'd love to get your opinions on it below. Up next, I want to feature this here from Gary Neville, because Gary Neville gets a lot of stick for how he talks about Arsenal and the punditry that he's put out. I get a lot of stick for calling it out, but take a listen to this.
Not that Arsenal didn't seize the opportunity, just a very, very strong Liverpool side did.
Not quite. I mean, yeah, you're right. Liverpool have been strong, but Arsenal should have been closer to them. Arsenal are strong. Arsenal of last season are as good, if not better, than the Liverpool of this season. So Arsenal should be neck and neck with Liverpool.
The injury crisis, though.
I know, but you've got a plan for that. I mean, Arsenal haven't signed a striker for 3 years, and now it's woe me about the fact they haven't got a striker. They've got Havertz up front, they've got Jesus. He doesn't fancy, to be fair, Jesus anyway as a striker. Havertz is his only option, and surely you've got a plan in a 55-game season that you're going to lose a player or two. So the idea that they haven't got backup for Havertz and Jesus is, for me, not right. And
this here from Gary Neville is spot on, and it's one of the best pieces of analysis I saw yesterday in relation to the Arsenal situation. And that is, yes, they've had injury problems. Yes, they've had some games that just haven't quite gone their way. But there's also been a drop-off in the level at Arsenal. And the injury crisis situation, look, Arsenal are a rich club. They don't have PSR problems. They could have spent more in the summer, and they could have spent in January. They decided as a club to not do it. So you may not hold Arteta accountable for that. You may not hold the players accountable, and absolutely right to not hold the players accountable for the club not spending more, for them having holes in the squad. But the football club, by and large, underprepared for this season. Some people will sit and go, Terry, I called this from day one that this would happen. You've ended up being right. Same people said this would happen last year and it didn't happen. They got that one wrong. But I think if you put away all the narcissism and all the I was right, I don't look at Arsenal as a team that's about to fall off dramatically. I look at Arsenal as a team that needs a couple of £100 million being spent. And I don't buy into it. Yeah, but look what else is already spent. You've got to keep spending, win, lose or draw. It's almost a nothing argument now to go, well, why keep spending? Everybody has to keep spending. Whether you win, whether you lose, there needs to be a freshness injected into a team every year. But they need that bagsman, that natural number 9 up front. They need more from the wings, because I don't think Trossard and Martinelli are of the standard. And they need more creativity from midfield. I think they need to re-look at that Odegaard position. Maybe drop him a little bit deeper. They need their own KDB, their own Bruno Fernandes, their own attacking midfielder who is clutch, who comes up with so many game-changing moments. They need to add that to this team. I wouldn't give it to Waneri yet at 17. I think he's far too young to have that responsibility on his shoulders. So you want to bring somebody else into this side. But overall, what Gary Neville said is correct here. And I think this is a message for all of us. Yes, if, for instance, they'd gone in the summer, they bought Gyökeres, they bought Nico Williams, and they bought Rodgers off Villa. I'm just throwing some names out there. And those three all got injured. And then the same injury crisis happened on top. You might look at it and go, do you know what? It's completely unprecedented. They actually planned really well. They've had bad... I think Arsenal fans, by and large, could accept it. But it's the fact those holes were there. They had the chance to rectify it when they were still in every competition in January. They chose not to. It's absolutely right that Arsenal fans hold their board, hold their club accountable. However, you can do that without wanting to throw baby out with the bathwater and tear everything down. Balance, I think, is key. As ever, look, I love getting your views. I love getting your opinions on all of this. We're back later today for the Top 6 show where we're reviewing the situation at Manchester United and a big claim from Gary Neville. Should they be prioritising the Europa League? We're going to break down Chelsea at the weekend and how they're going to set up against Arsenal in their next match. And the crisis at City continues. Do they need to move on from Pep Guardiola? That's the big conversation. That is the big debate. Hit the like and the share button on this. Until next time, take care, goodbye, God bless, and I'll see you soon. Peace.